Alright, so welcome back to the second part of the video. So this is the continuation of the video I posted earlier on how to make a zipper shirt. That's a shirt with zip. You understand? So this part of the video will be doing the stitching, the sewing aspect of the video. So starting from the back, we are going to add the half back. Okay, so the process is simple. So looking at the video, you definitely understand what I'm explaining. You understand? So remember that we cut the half back in the previous video that we did the cutting aspect, right? So in this video we'll be doing the joining. Yeah, so here we are joining the back part, the half back that we cut separately. So this is like the first process, the first step that we are going to take to join the half back. Then when we are done with that, then we join the shoulders. That's the front. Remember, this is the back. So when we are done with that, we join the shoulders. Okay, so now we are joining the front to the back. Okay, so placing the right side together. So the right side of the front will also be facing the right side of the back, and then we join the shoulder. So I use a method, a particular method. There is a particular method I use to join my shoulders, okay, by flipping it this way. I did a video on this channel. I have a video on this channel on how to stitch like a professional, how to stitch like a pro. That's the video where I showed how I join my shoulders. Okay, that's basically how I do my joinings generally to make it look professional. You understand? So but if you are not doing that pattern, the next step is very simple. What I'm trying to do here is just to join the shoulders. That's the front to the back. Okay, so when I flip it, this is what I get. Okay, this is how it looks very smooth and neat. You understand? So I'm simply doing the same process on this other side. Alright, so we are done with the both side. Then this is how it looks like at this point. This is the front. Okay, so what's the next thing to do? We are now going to run an extra stitch on top of it to help it lap very well. Alright, yeah, so running an extra stitch on top of it. You can see that, you can see this space here. Okay, it's not overlapping. If you remember from the cutting, the way we placed it while cutting it is the reason why it's not going to overlap. Remember, it has a zip. It's going to have a zip at the front, so it's not meant to overlap like the shirts that have buttons in them. You understand? So that's basically the difference between this one and the regular shirt. Okay, so now we are done running our stitch on top of it. Then the next thing to do is to face the hands. Okay, so you can see how fast the work is getting. The easiest part, the hardest part rather, is the zip aspect. The cutting. The cutting aspect is the hardest part of making this zipper shirt. So here I'm just trying to trim it, okay, make it look equal. You understand? Because the extra back, the half back that I joined to the back was not aligning properly. So you just trim and make sure that everything is smooth and equal. You understand? So that's before you join the sleeve, because The next part after joining the shoulders is joining the sleeves, and once you have joined the sleeve, the work is already done. Okay, so we'll get into the hand now. Yeah, so after 3 minutes, the next thing you are going to do is to make a notch at the center. Alright, yeah, so you place it equal, make sure that it's equal at the front and the back, and then you see I'm checking it to be sure that it's equal. Now I'll make a notch here. I'll do the same for the other side. You see, because the sleeve, while joining the sleeve, it should start from the center. So make sure that everything is equal while we make our notch here at the center. Alright, so at this point, this will form the base or the starting point for our sleeve. You understand? So we are going to fold the down part. We are going to fold the down part of the sleeve. Remember, while we are cutting it, we made a notch. So we are folding 2.5 inches. So from the notch that we made there, the small cutting that we did there, that's how we'll know where we are folding from. Understand? So I'm just folding the downside now for both of them. So once we are done with this, now we can now join it to the shirt. You understand? And it's actually important to always lock your stitches when starting and when finishing. Lock your stitches. You can see me doing it here. To lock stitches simply means going this back and forth that I do whenever I start a stitch. You understand? You go back and forth. That's locking your stitch. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we are going back to the fabric now. We are going back to the fabric. Okay, so you see, to join the sleeve, this is the back, and the place that is facing me, the part that is facing me is the front, and I'm also placing the front of the sleeve to the front, you understand? So it's front to front, and then you align the notch that you made on the sleeve. Remember, we made a notch while we are cutting the sleeve at the center of the sleeve. Yeah, so the notch at the center of the sleeve goes to the one that we just made at the armhole of the shirt. So we'll start from that part to the end and then go from the other end. You understand now? We start from the center where we made the notch to this point, and then we'll still flip it and start from the center again to the end point. Yeah, my machine was just giving me some little issues here and there, so I was just trying to change or adjust my stitches. Yeah, so you see what I did there? So I flipped it over and I'm still starting from the center to the other end point. Do you understand? So this is how I fix my sleeve, which is like the easiest way to fix the sleeve. There are many other ways, but this is the pattern that I'm used to, and it works all the time. So you can see that. It's how it's looking, and then we're just going to close it. Okay, so this pattern is not going to have any slit at the downside, you understand? So we are closing it from the sleeve down. Okay, so what we are using is the round sleeve is about 8 inches. That's 16 divided by 2 is 8. So that's what we are using here. And then I'm just going to run it straight down. Okay, so we are done with this part. Now we are going to do the other side. The same process, join the sleeve and then measure the round sleeve and then stitch it straight down, you understand? Remember that the front is the part that is facing me, you understand? The front of the fabric, while the front of the shirt or the sleeve will be facing the material. You can see the chalk marks that I have on the sleeve and the material as well. Understand? Because any small switch or misplacement will probably cause you. Okay, so it's very important that we pay attention to the right side and the wrong side of a fabric while mixing our fabric. There was one time that I made this mistake and it wasn't nice at all. Alright, so remember to like, share, and comment where you're watching from. Okay, so this is the same procedure that I've already explained that we did on the other side. Okay, so we are just repeating the same process on this other side. Now we've joined the sleeve. The next thing to do is to run it down, right? Close it. 16 inches is the round sleeve, so 16 inches divided by 2 is 8 inches, and so we are stitching from 8 inches down. Okay, so as simple as that. Okay, so we are done with the other side now, and then the next thing to do is the fold the down parts of the shirt. Alright, so remember that we added about 2 inches for the folding, so that's exactly what I'm going to be folding for the down parts. After we are done with this, that's the point when we fix the zip and then fix the collar and we are good to go. You understand? So you can see the process. Okay, so making this kind of shirt is very easy. The work actually is on the previous video, which I'll be putting the link to the video in this description. You understand? So I feel like the cutting aspect is the more difficult aspect. You understand? So this pattern, this part is the regular easy part. You understand? So, but like the most important thing for this part is to run in clean stitches. You understand? And then it's definitely going to turn out nice. Okay, so now we are back to the table. You understand? Now you can see that naturally there is a space in between. You understand? After we've joined the sleeve, we've done the folding, you can see that there is a natural space in the center here, which is as a result of the pattern that we used in cutting the shirt. You understand? Now this pattern was going to be occupied by the zip that we're going to fix. You understand? So now we are back to the machine and we are going to fix the zip now. Starting from down, you can see how I place the shirt. Starting from down, this is the zip that we will be using. You place it this way and then run a straight stitches from down to the top. At this point, you want to make sure that your hand is straight, one, and then that your stitches is neat. These two things is the most important part in joining or fixing the zip. Straight hand and clean stitches. That's all you need here at this part now, you understand? So you carefully run the stitch from down to this point and then you can see how it's looking. Very clean. Without ironing it, you can see that it's looking sharp and neat. You understand? So now we are joining the other side. Okay. So you've noticed or you've seen that the joining starts from the down part. You understand? And remember that before we fixed the zip, before we started fixing the zip, we've already folded it down already. You understand? So we are done with the fixing and you can see how it looks like here. You can see how smooth it is looking here. You understand? Yeah, so now we are going to trim. You can see that it's bending. Like one part is taller, a bit shorter than the other one. So this is the reason why we join from down. Alright, so because we've already done our folding at the downside, that's because we've already done the folding at the down part. Fixing the zip from the down, if there is any adjustment, it is going to be done at the top. You understand? You can see that I've trimmed it and it's still looking sharp and clean. Alright, so if we are joining from the top to the bottom, this effect now would have happened at the downside of the shirt. And remember that we've already folded the down part of the shirt already. You understand? So that is why we do it the way we are doing it. Now, after we've trimmed it, the next thing I'm doing is to take a round measurement of the neck, which is what I'll be using to form the collar. You understand? So until I get exactly the measurement that I want, let's say, even if it's not up to what I want, then we expand. So that is why, like I said earlier in one of the videos I made here, it is better for your sleeves to be small for your neck or collar to be small than for it to be big, because you can easily expand your collar, but you cannot reduce the length of your collar. Like you cannot shrink the length of your collar, but you can expand it. You understand? So now we are forming the collar. So the actual length of the collar is 18 inches, which is what I have here. 18 inches. And the width is about 4 inches. What I have here is 4 inches. Okay, so this is how we form this particular collar for this zipper shirt. Now, first of all, fold it into 2 equal parts, and I will measure 5 inches from the beginning point. Okay, 5 inches from the beginning point, and then Hope you can see that. And then we go up by 1 inches. Okay, so are you seeing what I'm doing here? Then at this top we go down by 1 inches, and then we still slant it to the beginning point. Okay, so this is the pattern that I use to make this collar for this shirt, you understand? And then the down part, I'll slope it upwards to 1 inches. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like when I fix it. Okay, so now we are going to gum it. Okay, so now we are going to gum it on the fabric. You can see that we are leaving space on the downside and also on the upper side. Okay, so trim off the extras, leaving some inches, like about half inches on the downside. Okay, so now on this downside, we are going to fold it using a hemming gun. You can see that this is the final look. This is how the front is going to look like. Now we are going to place it on another fabric and then run our stitches around it. You can see the other fabric. This is the back, and this other side is the front. This is the back now. This other side is the front, and then we are placing it like this. We'll run stitches around the edges. You understand? And then we turn it over. Once we are done with that, our collar is complete. Okay, so I've done that already, and I'm going to turn it over to the front. But before I turn it over, I'm going to cut off these little extras there, then turn it to the front. You understand? Okay, so you can see that I've trimmed it already, and then turn it over. Once you turn it over, use our scissors to point out the edges. Find something pointy to use and point out these edges, alright? Because it's not going to be perfect when you turn it over. So once you have done that, we iron it down. Use our iron to give it a very smooth ironing. You understand? And then you can see how it looks like now after we've ironed it and we've pointed it out. Now we are going to make an equal part on the downside, leaving half inches or even quarter inches. I think this is quarter inches. Yeah, so fold it into equal parts and then make a notch at the center of it. This is how it looks like now. And at this point, our collar is ready to be fixed to the shirt. You understand? And you are back to the machine to fix the collar to the shirt. Okay, so the same way we folded the collar to get the center, that's the same way we are going to fold or place the front to get the center as well. Because, like I said, almost the same formula for fixing the sleeve. The notch goes to the notch. Okay, so we are placing it this way. The front is facing upwards while I place the collar this way. Okay. And then we are going to run the stitch down to the other parts, from the notch down to the other part. This has to be done gently and calmly, making sure that it is equal. You understand? But basically, once you have gotten this collar to this point, fixing it is not going to be a problem. Okay, so if you have watched to this point, like, share, and comment where you're watching from, and let me know if you'll be trying this pattern. Okay, yeah, so you can see what I did. Then I'm starting from this point again to meet the notch. Okay, so after this, now the next thing is to iron. That's all. Once it has gotten to the ironing aspect, then the shirt is complete. You understand? So now that we've joined this part, we are going to turn it over this way and then move the joining inside, cover it up with this part. Hope you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, so move it in and then cover it up. Run a clean stitch on top of it, and then you're good to go. You can see how I'm paying attention to make sure that the joining is being covered. Make sure that the joining is being covered very well with this material. I mean with the collar. Okay, so you can see how it looks like after we've joined it. You can see that this is how it looks like after we've joined it. And the next thing we are going to do is iron it. Okay, so we are back to the table to do the ironing aspect, which is like the last aspect. Okay, so at this point, the shirt is about 90% completed. You can see how smooth it's looking here. So we're going to fold it this way. Fold it this way and then iron it. Hope you can see what I'm doing here. At this point, I want to form a base. Alright, I want to use my hand to bend it to the parts or the points or how I want it. I want to use my hand to bend it how I want it, and then before I iron on top of it. You can see that. Okay, so the most important part that needs to be ironed is this collar. Okay, so I also sprinkled water on it to make it easier to iron. Then once you're done ironing from the back, you can now turn it over to the front and do the same process. Okay, so now you can see how it looks like. And then now I'm just going to iron the entire shirt, give it a thorough ironing, and we are done. So this is the completion, right? A full video tutorial on how to make this shirt. Okay, so the first part, like I said earlier, the cutting aspect, the link will be on this video, or you can just go and check the previous video that I posted already before posting this one. You see the cutting aspect of this particular shirt. Okay, so now you can see the final look. This is how it looks like. The down part, the collar, and every. So now I applied a little design on it. You can see how it looks like. Alright, so thanks for watching. Like, share, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video.